So we'll just start the session. A very good morning from School of Design and Architecture at the MAHE Dubai campus. So it's always a pleasure to invite our own alumni to interact with students. And for the session today, we have students not only from our own campus, but from various other countries joining to hear from Franzita, who is a senior interior designer at the Ingenious Concepts. And she's going to talk on a very interesting topic, design your portfolio. So each design students need to know as how best you can create your own portfolio, because that increases your employability. At the same time, also when you talk to your clients, it can really create that whole first impression. Thanks to Marwa Iqbal from Alumni Relations for coordinating for the session. And we welcome all the students from various universities who have joined us today morning. And I can see a large number of students coming in. So I would not be taking much of time. One thing about Franzita I would like to tell all of you is that she's extremely competitive. Whichever competition she participated, she always won. And I always tell this to the current students now that, you know, these are stories that I love to share. And I remember each competition, which was at a very large scale, she has always won, because she believed, I think, if you participate, you win, or you don't participate. I think that is something that she always carried that message with her, and extremely focused in her work. And happy to see you here, and you can just start your talk. Thanks. I can see Dilshad joining this session. She was a faculty member with us some years back. So thanks, ma'am, for joining. So we'll have a presentation, and then it's more an interactive session. So feel free to ask questions. And we are recording this session. So Franzita, you can start.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Bhakti, for the hearty welcome. And everyone on board over here as well. Hi, how are y'all? And I hope you're having a great day ahead. So what I decided to do with this presentation is to basically, first and foremost, can everybody hear me? I hope I'm audible enough for everyone over here. I don't think I'm going to get a response on that, but if Ms. Bhakti can please confirm.
Yes, they can put in the chat. You can write anything that if you have any disturbance in the sound, let us know. We're definitely going to unmute you, and we want you to talk once she completes the presentation. Thank you.
Eventually, yes. All right, so I'm going to dig in. And what I decided to do with this presentation is to talk about the one key point through which you can stand out from your competition. And the only way you can do that is by being the best version of yourself. And I'm going to dig into this presentation and show you what exactly you can do to be the best version of yourself. A little bit of an introduction on myself. I am an interior designer, a writer, a photographer, and a speaker. And furthermore, in this span of 7.5 years, I have been heavily working through the construction industry, of which I've spent 4.5 years. And I'm a lead GA certified professional with the lead AP within this year, and also registered with the Society of Engineers in the UAE. Just a small rundown on the projects I've done. I'm sure quite many of you would know two of the projects on this presentation. That is 5 Jumeirah Village and 5 Palm Jumeirah. So I've had the amazing opportunity, I would say, of my life to be a part of this project for a good 4.5 years of my experience. And I learned an immense amount of material, knowledge, learned a lot from people, and I mean, I cannot compare that to anything else. And it's only because of, the steps I took through the years to reach there. And I want to share that with you as well. Before that, I was doing design, and this is an example of two projects I've executed. And one is a conference room, and one is an office for a private client. So moving into a portfolio design. A portfolio design basically is an expression of self without you being in the picture. So you're just going to stand in the form of paper or an online presentation or a PDF format. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what you're doing. You are end of the day going to be, a 1010 information onto somebody else's screen. And how do you get that information to stand out? So we have four fundamentals. One is creative, user-inspired, collaborative, and organized. These four fundamentals are imperative on every aspect of designing a portfolio, and I'll expand on that as we go through here. So the creative is talking about talent and being talented in every aspect of creativity. So you need to be passionate, you need to be curious by nature, you need to have a thought process that is always thinking, what can I do instead of doing this? I mean, it's great if you want to follow the protocol. It's great if you just want to go by the books. But sometimes it's amazing to just do something beyond that. And that's what creativity sometimes feels. You just feel like you've broken hell. Going to user inspired. User inspired is about people, activity, and place. It may seem like three words around over here, but user inspired is basically putting yourself in your space and figuring out if that is exactly what you want to feel when you're sitting over there. User inspired is basically the center of what your thinking should be. Collaborative, the next fundamental. Collaborative is interdisciplinary work. Now, interdisciplinary work is about having a one team ethos method of working. And it's not a one man show method of working, which is something that everybody thinks nowadays. It's no longer a one man show. It's all about teamwork. It's all about working together with at least 10 to 10 at the minimum, if not, maybe 8 to 10 people in large projects. And it is about working with that big gamut of knowledge, that gamut of human experience altogether. Organized. Organized is about focusing your mind to not just the traditional focus, and then get your stuff done. It's about focusing your ideas and then managing it in such a way that it gets translated transparently to the end user. And the end user is going to be at various stages of people through the entire design process and the execution and the final handover of a process. So my aim over here right now with this design your portfolio platform that we've received through Manipal is I want you to understand what the industry expects of you for a portfolio. It is no longer going to be, a fancy presentation of renders and just, some amazing visualization styles, some cool fonts downloaded from, 100fonts.com or something. No, it's not of that. It is about what sets you apart from the thousands of people who are going to graduate every year. And that is where you need to understand how the industry functions first. And that's what I aim to do over here today. I want to give you a feel, a sort of a taste, a sort of a trailer on what the industry is. And then I want you to be the end user and understand how you can channel that entire industry for yourself to get a job. Okay, now we're going to talk about creative. So creative is, like I mentioned, everything that is the aspect of your design. So it is going to be, in a sense, the length of your portfolio. It should be not too long because nobody's interested in reading 50 pages of a portfolio. Trust me, they don't even read resumes more than 3 pages long. So looking at a portfolio of 50 pages is a huge deal, because you should understand one thing. Recruiters nowadays, companies across the world nowadays, they receive hundreds of submissions, and going through 50 pages is not happening anymore. It's going to be just the first few or five, because I've done that myself. It's just going to be the first 5 or 6 pages, and that's it. They're going to then shortlist people. And I had an experience myself of being on the interviewing and client side where I had to shortlist people for a project, and that's precisely what I had to do, because I had like a stack of CVs. I had a stack of design portfolios, and I was like, no way can I just, I'm going to spend the whole month or what sitting and looking at all of this. So I started screening, and the screening process is where you need to step in. You need to step in on the screening process, and that's why I'm saying your length of your portfolio not be more than maybe 20 pages at max. If you really want to do something amazing, select the right projects. So projects like your thesis is important. Any competitions that you've won, that has to go in, even if it's been a consolation prize. Just put it in there because it's a competition. Internships, yes, internships are one of the closest tangents that you've had to the industry. You may have better experience, yes, you may have got extra time somewhere outside, but having an internship project is really important as well. And finally, I would say just a few extra projects from your 2 or 3 years of study, and it should not be a very immature project. So I would rather let what I'm trying to say is avoid your first year projects in plain simple English. Try and get to something where you're making an impact because the industry is clearly looking for matured individuals. We're not looking for kids. So I'm seriously saying this. Yeah, we're not looking for kids. Going over to the next part, content portfolio, which is having your project brief, your sketches, your renders, the entire design process. That's your content of the portfolio. And the content is, as we all know, everybody's on Instagram nowadays, everybody's on social media. We're always skipping through things we don't want, right? So quality versus quantity, that's all I'm going to say. Try to immensely focus on the quality of your projects. And I've also attached two names over here, which is ElastArc and Upstairs. So ElastArc is a very advanced. Sorry, I guess somebody is having a small issue on the other side. Okay, so ElastArc is a very advanced platform of presentation techniques, and they have a lot of video content, and you can definitely go through this guy, and you can take down notes onto ElastArc as well. Upstairs is another platform, and it's a YouTube presentation of a guy who is in Brazil right now, and he puts up some amazing content on how to do different rendering methods, different visualization techniques, and you can learn a lot from him as well. There are two examples I've placed over here. It's just two images I liked. It does not have to be something you like. You would have a different taste, and that's okay. But being yourself is part of what creativity is. Now, end user. End user is about, like I said, yourself. Because tomorrow, the end user, for you right now, the end user is the recruiter. The end user is the company you want to get into so damn badly, which is maybe Atkins, Foods Packets, HBA, or the Genslers of the world. That's your end user. So you need to think from that perspective. Now, if you look at the image over here, what do you feel? Don't you want to maybe go in, explore the space a little bit, see what's happening behind those windows over there, feel the light, get onto these connective members that are presented for you to get from one space to the next space, and then explore the other side of the structure. You want to do that. That is what you should do with your portfolio. That is exactly what I want you to do with your portfolio. I want you to make them go through it like they should never come out of it again. They need to go through that portfolio and say, this is the person I want in my company. That happens through your project again. Now, when you're doing your project design, you need to have certain processes in stage. So the design process comprises of many personal levels, societal levels, and environmental levels. They all get down into stages. At the most basic, I will talk about the space planning, I will talk about zoning, matrix diagrams, circulation plans, function, research, heavy research. We might do studies and get generic media or information our projects. That is what is going to help you translate your project better, and therefore making a better portfolio. Collaborative. Now, as I understand, a lot of the people on today's presentation over here, along with me, are from the architecture and the design background, and also from architecture and design school. So one thing we need to understand is this is not a one-man show industry. It does not work like that. The DAEC industry, which is also the DAEC industry, is comprising of hundreds of professionals. And I've just mentioned like a handful of them over here. The most important being clients, because if we didn't have clients, we wouldn't have this industry. And also vice versa. If we didn't have the smart people who know how to build, we wouldn't have clients who would want more of what we're building. So it goes in both ways, and we need to work together as a team. It cannot be that, even the person who might just be tomorrow, you might be moving up the ladder, you might be growing in your company, but you may have a newbie on the team. Even if that person joins the team, that person is important because maybe he's just doing a bathroom layout for you, but your project is going to be incomplete without that bathroom layout. Probably you have someone as, as senior as you, and they might be doing a bathroom layout, but your project is going to be incomplete without that bathroom layout. Probably you have someone as, senior as you, and they might be doing a bathroom layout, but your project is going to be incomplete without that bathroom layout. invisible, if I may add, I should say that even, but someone as invisible as your production or store manager, because if you don't know what materials or what products you have in stock, how are you going to spec them? You're not going to be able to do it. So you need to understand collaboration. Now, translating collaboration into your presentation of your portfolio, that means you need to understand information that is not in your hands. So information like lighting studies, information like HVAC, mechanical, electrical, plumbing drawings. This is not necessarily your field of strength. So you would not have the entire presentation that you require to put, but you can get key information, and probably that's what you would like to add. So this would encompass of information like you know, when I say about HVAC, for example, the type of systems used to cool, whether it's a passive cooling or whether it is, used by a certain type of machines, or, whether we're using certain kind of calculations into the space, we need to write those down so that you have an edge over other projects that are being shown. And when it comes to, for example, FF&E designers, again, FF&E designers is basically a field where people just are there to help the interior designers or architects in terms of materials. So when you get materials into your project, you're going to have to use materials. You need to understand that all that information comes from a supplier, comes from a manufacturer, and every information that is put into their data sheets is tried, tested, and certified. So you need to get that information together. That's what is collaboration. You need to get all that information, you need to study that information, you need to translate that into your project. I'll move on to organized. Organized is, like I mentioned, focusing and managing. So we need to organize a lot of things into our portfolios, right? And the most important of them all is to organize the safety part of whatever we're designing. Safety can come through different standards that have been established in the industry. And to know those standards is very important. And that's what I write over here when I say building codes, when I say authorities, when I say technical drawings, specification sheets, calculations, test reports even. So these are informations that come together on your drawing, and that is translated into a project management team tomorrow, because that is what they're going to build. So when it comes to having the information organized, you need to learn. There's a heavy learning stage that happens over here, and you need to learn through all the stages of this process. I've also attached two amazing people on this page. One is Dar Technical, and this is a person, he's an architect in Dubai, and I've learned a lot from him. So I'm also sharing him on this page for you so that you can go over Instagram and, learn a little from there. And then you have Design Workshop. Design Workshop is a guy based in America, and he talks about his process of design, the way he thinks. Basically, he's basically talking about how he thinks into working a design, and he shows you the step-by-step process of what he does into developing a sound, safe, functional project, because that is what we need to do as designers, as architects. We are responsible for the spaces of tomorrow's future. Coming into the main point of my discussion in this entire presentation is technical drawings. Now, technical drawings are basically the most boring point. Probably some of y'all might not like technical drawings. Somebody might not be interested in even knowing what it is. But if you don't know this, you don't know the industry. As simple as that. If you don't know this, you're not meant for the industry. I'm sorry to say that, but if you cannot do technical drawings, you cannot survive this industry. And I remember, my struggle days back when I graduated. I had a real interest in technical drawings. I'll be honest about that, but I didn't expect to sort of drown for the first 2 years. And when I say drown, I was really drowning, and I had a lot of unnecessary mistakes that had happened, and I learned from those mistakes. So I'm sharing this with you so that you don't make those same mistakes, if you're interested to learn and survive. Um, so yeah, drawings basically help us to communicate our ideas. It is the most transparent way of letting somebody know what you want to do. It is about expressing yourself in lines, in symbols, in annotations, in scale values and units of measure. I mean, I cannot say it any more simpler than that. That is what it is. Your design has to, end of the day, come down in a line format. No matter if you're, using Revit, or you're using ArchiCAD, you're using SketchUp, you're using all the biggest softwares on the planet. If you cannot translate your thought, which is a design thought, if you cannot translate that down onto the paper or onto a visual element of what it should look like and how it should work, it does not stand. It is as easy as saying that's a fantasy. And that is very important of what we need to understand as future designers. And I expressed heavily, in fact, because I remember seeing a few of my, during the times when I was interviewing people. So I kept asking them questions on, simple gypsum construction, because you have different types of gypsum constructions. And I asked them about water construction for gypsum, or waterproofing systems for gypsum even, and nobody had any answer. And I was surprised because this is the first basics that you need to know. You have a slab. On your slab, you're going to have things that are going to stand on it. I mean, if you're into architecture, you're going to know that you've got your beams, your lintels, your steel structures, you've got dead weight, you've got low, you've got heavy live weight, you've got everything calculated. And then each of these items coming onto it at the end of the day need to be spec'd, or rather, when I say spec, need to have a technical know-how. When it comes to designers, from your slab, you start building up, and you're adding layers upon layers. And if you don't know what those layers are, you might as well be building castles in the air, basically. And taking you through this entire process, the a, a very good portfolio. I'm not going to use any adjectives here and tell you amazing, fantastic, mind-blowing portfolios and all. No, I'm not going to use any of that. I'm just going to say a good portfolio, because end of the day, you need to be good at what you're doing. So a good portfolio is something that talks about your knowledge on authority regulations, design codes, sustainability practices, and technology. You need to have these four in place, and that is where you stand out. That is what is going to make you stand aside, apart, and above from a lot of dare I say, mediocre applications. And I hope you embody this and implement it into your work, into your portfolio right now. Just some key information over here. So line weights, I'm sure everybody knows what line weights are, and how important it is, line weights. And then you've got color books, if people can remember what color books are. So you've got the Pantone color books, you've got the solid colors, you've got in many more metallic colors, you've got a lot of them. But when you transfer your drawings from AutoCAD to Revit, you've got a different set of color books that you've got to use. CTBs, you need to learn how to create CTBs. You need to create your own CTBs, or sometimes you have companies that already have their own CTBs. And finishing schedules. Finishing schedules are also important, because finishing schedules let you know what exactly is happening in the project in terms of buildability, right? Graphics, when I say graphics over here, I'm talking about hatch patterns, I'm talking about line weights, I'm talking about dots, talking about methods of differentiating different items on a drawing. Okay, so let me take you through some of the basic type of drawings that we have. This very simple rundown on the type of drawings we have, but in the real world, it's a lot more than that. We've got books, basically. When I say books, I mean like hundreds of sheets of drawings. So if you're well versed with BIM, you'll understand that BIM has got 5 stages of drawings. So you've got from a BIM 100 or an LOD 100, which is a level of drawing, LOD 100 all the way to LOD 500. And that is working with BIM. If anybody is well versed with BIM, then you can develop further on that. When it comes to AutoCAD, you have architectural, you've got design, you've got structural, you've got interiors, you've got shop drawings, you've got consultant packages, you've got contractor packages also. And then you even have, maybe depending on the type of project and the level of complexity in that project, you'll have something extra there. But coming back to your portfolio, I would say stick to a few drawings from here. Maybe you could select some of them, or maybe you can develop what you require. If you think it's important to explain an idea, then by all means, go ahead and put that drawing into your presentation, into your portfolio. So I will emphasize on a few though. Most definitely site plan, location study, general arrangement plans are important, finish layouts and schedules, of course, sections and elevations without a doubt, landscape layouts if you have anything of that sort. Shop drawings are subjective. I mean, if you want to add, let's say, a custom built cabinet, probably a shop drawing could be also your product drawings, you know, your product design stuff that you've done through university stages. So you could have that translated into a shop drawing. So how you're going to get things built. If you have any MEP or any electrical drawings to support your project, then by all means you need to put that into your project as well, because that shows to the end user, which is going to be me, maybe tomorrow hiring one of y'all, or it's going to be a recruiter tomorrow going to be hiring one of y'all. We need to know that you understand the knowledge of what goes on behind an electrical circuit. And the emergency layout lighting, you understand RCPs. We need to know, and we need to be confident that if I get this person on board, I can maybe, shadow the person for a good 6 months or for a good 3 months. But after that, he or she is on their own. And that is exactly what happens in the real world. Nobody's going to be sitting with you and babysitting you along the entire way. We don't do that in the industry because we have deadlines. And that's the reason we don't get to sit and, babysit people across projects. What we can do is assist, we can shadow, we can guide. Yes, we can definitely teach any time of the day. I remember when I had, in my struggling first 2 years, I remember I had almost made a really big blunder, and it was because I didn't make the drawing properly. And nobody realized it because, of course, my drawing, what I had to make, had to be reviewed and cross-checked by my senior. And she was not available that day, so I submitted it. But that was my mistake. I completely take responsibility of it. But I sent that across. And they used the wrong finish on the product. Thank God they just started with one chair, and it was a chair. It was for a conference room. But I'm glad they just did one. And when we got the product back, we got the sample images back, and I was like, sorry, I don't want to use an expletive over here, but I was like, no way, this is not happening, because I received a load of whatever you have to listen to. I listened to all of that, and I made up my mind that I'm going to work harder and, stop making mistakes along the way. So yeah, the same thing back to you in your portfolio. When you want to talk to somebody, they need to know that you know your stuff well. That's the only way you're going to get through it. These are some samples of hand sketching. So yeah, talking about technical drawings, what I do, my method of working is I first do sketches, and I do a lot of hand drawings where I try to understand how things come together. And it's imperative to do hand drawings because you will understand why certain stages have to be done first. So let's go back to our floor. It's a blank space, if you can imagine a shell and core, and you have a block partition on 3 sides, and you've got a window glazing on the 4th side. So now to come down and do the floor, you've got a difference from the finished flooring to the main slab. You've got a difference of, let's say, about 12 or 15 centimeters. Generally, it's 15, but let's say you've got that much. Now, as a design process, yeah, you want to put marble on the floor, but how are you going to do the marble? You really can't put the marble straight up on that floor. You need to have certain stages in place. So the stage is going to be waterproofing, and then you're going to have screed. Then you're going to have, potentially you're going to have a lot of electrical and plumbing, if not, depending on the purpose and function of the space, you're going to have electrical stuff and plumbing materials on the floor. Then you're going to have your self-leveling compound on the floor, and then you're going to have your marble with the grout, specifically an adhesive compound, then your marble, and that's when the things are getting done. So do you see, we've already come through like 7 to 8 stages just to put the marble. That is what it is. That is where your technical knowledge stands important. And I'm not even talking about finishing the marble, because then you've got marble buffing, you've got sealant, you've got top coat, and you've got a final stage of application on top of it. Those are all, future applications. But just to get a person to walk from one level to the next level without tripping, without stepping down, you have got 7 stages or 8 stages to fill up. That is what your technical knowledge is going to help you with. And I heavily advocate that you must learn about implementing different methods of knowledge into different stages of design. So to move on from here, this is basically some details that I used to do for landscape drawings, LED drawings and stuff like that. This is a cross section to show a counter for a restaurant actually. So if you have drawings like this, you should have them on your portfolio, because this shows that tomorrow you have a situation, you've been hired now, you have a situation where you need to come up with a quick sketch of, let's say they give you a reception table, which is definitely what you're going to get. A reception table, or you're going to get a vanity counter, you're going to get some sofa, or something like that, because that's how we test you, that's how we basically gauge you, we understand you through that. So maybe you got a reception table. Now if you're going to do the reception table, you need to understand that everything has got its own components, and maybe you're not able to do it on AutoCAD or Revit or ArchiCAD or any of those, but you need to do a quick sketch because somebody else is busy, or maybe the entire department is busy. So that way your drawing comes into the picture, and you need to have a good control of your hand. So your hand has to basically show the end person what you're doing and how that reception is going to look like. This is basically an explanation of what the purpose of hand sketching does. And it's a suitable sequence basically to help you understand, like I just now told you, how you're going to apply marble onto the floor, right? So here I have done a small sketch on understanding the ceiling. You can see the ceiling with the gypsum suspended ceiling over here, a small cabinet design, and then you've got the floor. So I was just basically making a small quick study on how I can develop the space better. How much am I losing? How much am I gaining? If I add a ceiling, then I'm having a soffit. So all these technical aspects help you develop a better design. That's the purpose of having technical background as well. These are some drawings that I've done during my project years, and this is an RCP example. This is a section. So we have different styles of putting sections into our portfolios nowadays. You've got axonometric sections, which is over here on your top right. You've got rendered sections, or 1 point rendered sections, which is on your top left. And then you have the conventional section over here, which is also not bad. I mean, all three of them are perfect. Ideally, it is about how you can translate what you want to do in your project to the person who's never seen you, does not know about you, does not even know that you might even exist, except that you've got your initial in the drawing sheet down there. That's it. Or maybe you might even be referred as designer. They do not know that maybe, let's say, Franzita is part of it, or Franzita is the person behind it. They just know that there's a designer there. So this is an example of how we can present our sections. And these are some shop drawings that I've done through the course of my program, through the course of my experience over here working. These are shop drawings. So I've, worked with different styles, and I've sort of come to a comfortable spot where I put 1 point perspective sections, and I also have a few axonometric sections, and then I have basic conventional. So it's a bit of a mix with everything. So like I'll show you over here right now. So you've got details, you've got axonometric views, you've got the conventional views along it. These are rendered views along with the sections, so you understand what the product is supposed to look. And let me tell you something, when I did this project, the people I worked with, they were really surprised, because this helped them understand what the project is going to look like. So you have your production team, or you have your joinery team, or the factory team basically, who's going to ask you hundreds of questions on how things are being done. And if you make life easy for people, I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot of blessings, a lot of blessings. I mean that with no pun at all. And when it comes to your portfolio, if you can translate your idea to the recruiter or to the senior, whoever is sitting to look at your work, if me, for example, I understand instantly, and I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. I love the way the person translated that. if I get it instantly, I'm going to take you immediately. I'm going to call you and ask you for an interview and probably get you on board. So that's how transparent you need to be with your translation of design. These are some spot details. I mean, of course, this is, a very advanced level of spot details. I don't expect that you have this background, but if you can, then all kudos to you. I'm really happy for you if you can do that. And these are basic spot details on doors and sections through the door frames and all of that. This is another spot detail of gypsum work basically. So what I've done to make life easier, you can take a note of the spot detail pointers that I've mentioned here. And trust me, this is going to be throughout your career. You're going to have to know all of them, if not 90 or 80% of them. You can definitely get this, thrown out at you anytime through your career. Even as soon as you graduate, probably that's what you're going to be doing. Maybe sort of doing drafting for a gypsum partition. Maybe you're going to be drafting, let's say, a cabinetry. You're going to be drafting a wooden wall feature. How are you going to do that? What sort of batten supports are you going to use? What is the total weight? Have you calculated the total weight of each MDF board before putting it on the wall? Are you sure that your gypsum partition or your block work partition can sustain that weight? So all these are small, little bit of key points that you need to understand, and you need to have that know-how. Now, to help you with that know-how, I've put together a useful industry resource list, and you can take a screenshot of this list, and or maybe you can note it down, or if you want, maybe this is recorded so you can review this again. By all means, I'm going to say it again, by all means, please go through this. It's going to save you a lot of embarrassment in the future. It's going to save you a lot of time as well in the future, and it's going to help you progress so fast that you're going to be surprised of your own self. And that's what I did. When I started committing mistakes in the beginning, I said, what is it that I can do to change myself? And I started learning back again. Sometimes, you can't expect to get everything from the university, because the university is also going to just teach you what is important to sort of let you out there. But then, you need to take the next step further. If you're interested in doing this as a full-fledged career, you need to take the step further and do whatever is required to survive this industry. So take a screenshot by all means and proceed further into the industry. You can even use some of this into your portfolios. I want to leave you with two key things, and that is one, a quote from Spider-Man, of course, and it talks about power. If you believe in yourself, you are, end of the day, creating spaces for people, and you are effectively controlling people through your space. So, as architects and designers of the DIAC, or the DAEC industry, which is the design, architecture, engineering, and construction industry, we have a social, economic, and environmental responsibility to make the world a better place. I cannot emphasize on how important this is. But as we say, let's go one day at a time. Let's try to take our careers and our knowledge one space at a time as well. So as we keep designing, we keep improving. That's what we must always aim for. And finally, I'm going to leave you with my guru. I mean, she and another person, Bija Kingles, but this lady has inspired me throughout my career. And she always says one thing, that 360 degrees, so why stick to one? I'm going to leave you with that. So you've got a multitude of options available with yourself. Choose the best, do the best, and don't settle for anything that you think is mediocre. If at all there's a small, slightest thought crossing your mind thinking that it's mediocre, skip it, do the best on that. Thank you, and that's about it. I now transfer back, and yeah, we'll take it from here now.
Great. Thank you, Franzita. I think very important line that you said, that you are the one who has to take it forward and learn in your own way. And as you rightly said, learning always continues. There is no end to learning, and every experience is learning. You learn from mistakes, you learn from what you see around and from your experiences. So amazing session, and I'm sure students are
Thank
there who
you.
have some questions for you. So maybe we can
I'm
unmute.
sure, yeah.
I can see a lot of participants there. They can either put in the chat, or I can just unmute all so they can feel free to ask questions. But really glad to see
Sure.
you there, and you took it really in structured format, step by step, to make them realize that how important is it is to have the best portfolio you can in the industry. And it's a very competitive
Yeah.
field. So collaboration and multidisciplinary aspects and all those criterias are also important to be reflected.
Yeah.
Any questions? Feel free to ask Transita, or you can put it in the chat. I just unmute everyone. Yeah. Yeah, feel free to ask questions, any
Miss
interaction you want to
Dilshad has Miss Dilshad has messaged and she says, "Thank you for the very good session. My students from India have definitely gained from this."
Mhm.
Thank you again, Miss Dilshad, and I hope everybody from India who's joined in and from everywhere else across the globe who's joined in, I hope you guys have gained from this. And my aim basically from this presentation was to let you know that we are in a stage of this industry where we are not stepping back anymore. We're just going further. And today, with COVID-19 happening, we're evolving. So this industry continuously evolves, and there is nothing that you're going to have to, look back. Even 5 years from now, it's going to be obsolete. You need to keep moving ahead, and that is what this industry does to you. You need to keep stepping up the game. And for all of you all graduating in the next year, or maybe this year, or maybe 2 years down the line, wherever you are at your educative level, you need to always level up. There's no other way of moving across. If not, you just need to keep leveling up. Yeah, I'll leave you with that because that is
Yeah.
really important in this industry. It's very competitive.
Yeah, we have a question from Ms. Dilshad that could you
Okay.
elaborate on the weightage that you could give percentage wise in your portfolio? Maybe percentage weightage to
I,
presentation, details. How would you structure the portfolio in terms of its dividing it?
okay, so I would say when it comes to a project brief, the first thing is let's say in your portfolio you would have about 2 or 3 stages to divide the project into it. So the project brief, then you have sketches, then you have you've got the process, and then you've got finally the presentation on that. I would say presentation should include a little bit of a higher percentage, so let's give that at 60. And the rest of it, which is 40, is your content, is your process, is all of that, because of your presentation. And when I say presentation, I'm including technical as well into it. I'm including your software knowledge, which is going to be automatic. If you have a good technical background, if you have good visualization skills, software is automatic. If you've noticed, I didn't speak about software here because that is an automatic given. It's like saying you have a third hand, and we don't talk about it. So in the same manner, I would give 60% to presentation. And in that, again, from 60%, I would divide it as 10% on, style and graphic and all the decorative material around it, all of that pretty stuff, 10% on that. Because nobody's going to go and look at what colors you've used and which font style you use. Nobody cares about that. So 10% there. Now, the remaining 50% is going to be equally divided between technical knowledge and the presentation material, which is your information on that. Okay. Now, from the 100, you've done with 60. Now, the remaining 40, that is going to be how you compile everything, how you organize everything, how you can put the entire content together of your portfolio. So that's how I would break it down. I would say take some key projects in your education and for your time, and use that in the best way that you can. So even if you've got only 5 projects, that's more than enough. If your 5 projects are amazing, you're going to beat the guy with 10 projects. Don't worry, without a doubt.
And then when you're applying for masters, how different should the portfolio be from that for a job? That is what
You should
Ms. Dilshad has a question again. Yeah.
Okay, so for masters, yes, I'm going to be applying for my masters pretty soon. soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed on that if COVID settles down. So I would say you need to definitely have your work experience without a doubt. Everything from work experience. So there's another question coming in, but I'll just come back to Sharon George, yeah? So going back to Ms. Dilshad, so you need to have everything that you've done in your work experience, and I would say chronologically, of course, but take the ones that have been the most nearest. So whatever it is from the last 3 years, 4 years, that should be on the top, and you need to expand on that as much as you can. But don't make it boring. Don't make it redundant in terms of what you're adding there. Just make it very crisp. And if you wish and if you think that your master's program, depending on what they are looking for, maybe you've signed up for a course on building systems, maybe you've signed up for a course on acoustics, maybe you've signed up on a course for landscape design, your portfolio should reflect that course. You cannot take up a course on landscape design and then show interiors on that. It's of no use, right? So you need to expand on what you've done with landscape design there and how that can help you learn better, because that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. I have a friend of mine who actually signed up for acoustics programs, and she's been an engineer with me the whole time of my career as well. So what she did is, for the last couple of projects that she worked on, she took the projects, she explained what they were, and then she spoke on how acoustics was used in those projects and how she can learn and apply that knowledge into her master's for whatever thesis project she would want to do. Because a master's, end of the day, comes down to your thesis project, it comes down to your research material. So she tried to translate that further ahead, and that was a big deciding factor where she leveled up from another person. She did her course through that. Another thing I will say is try to get some background information with the people who've signed up on the course before you, and understand what they did differently. So you will definitely get material over YouTube, or maybe you can get in touch with the alumni from the university themselves, and probably start a dialogue from there on. I hope that answers your question, Ms. Dilshad, if that is good enough at least to make your students understand.
Yeah, and there's a question from Sundara. She says that how important is to reflect your personal style on the portfolio?
Which style?
Probably she means to say personal style as maybe it's about yourself more or how you look at things, or should it be very generic or very specific to your personality?
The entire process, which is coming down to each project, let's take each project. Each project will have a process. That process is your style, because you're not going to look at that project through my eyes, or I'm not going to look at your project through a fourth person's eyes. That is going to be the style that differentiates you from another project. And if you're talking about uh, design style in the sense of maybe something looking good, or maybe like graphic representation style or something, that's your liking end of the day. But if you want to be specific on how the project is translated, then that has to be through your lens. It cannot be through a generic lens. It has to be what you did differently. It has to be that way. I got a chance to work on an autism project, autism school, and to be honest, there's not much information on autism schools at all. There's just maybe a few peer-reviewed information available online, and we did not know what to do, to be frank. So we had to go there, and that's how we make it our style, right? So we had to go to the schools, we had to sit with the students, we had to listen to the teachers, listen to the parents, listen to them talk about their students, their children, how the school, or let's say a conventional built environment does not help an autistic child. So how you
Yeah,
translate that is what becomes my style.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
I think let me mute.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I hope that answers your question about
Yes.
style.
Yeah, and I think there's one question from Suhail. He wanted to know about the softwares that are currently used in the design industry. He's a student of first year, and he wants to know about the preferred softwares.
Preferred softwares. Okay, I will say the industry is moving towards BIM modeling. So that's where you should be. Yeah. definitely any software related to BIM modeling. So
Yeah,
Revit
I mean,
without forgetting on that.
yeah,
Then
definitely.
so okay, if you want to add more, if you want to add more, then you could, it depends on what you're interested in doing. If you're in architecture, you could even tomorrow maybe want to branch out into parametric architecture. So if you're interested in doing parametric styles of architecture, then you could definitely take up Grasshopper or Rhino or one of those advanced softwares where you have to develop code for it. If you're not getting to that side and you want to just be through modeling within the constraints of a software, then BIM modeling softwares are enough. That's, I think, more than enough. It has everything in it, so there's not much that you can do right now other than following the BIM models project, the softwares.
Yeah, and as digital transformation is happening, new softwares keep coming, and that's how the industry demands
Yes,
for it. Yeah, I mean, years back it was just AutoCAD,
yes,
and today everybody is
exactly.
switching to different modes of presentation and softwares. Yeah, any other questions are there for you, Franzita, on your chat? Or
There's one from a lady called Sharon. She says, what do you think is the best way to network with people from the industry for, say, freelancing works or internship? LinkedIn, LinkedIn, alumni, get in touch with your professors, you know, um, go over websites and search for the list of companies and then start searching who's working in that company, and then get in touch with people there. You're not going to get a response immediately, but definitely you're going to get somebody to respond at least. And that's how you build conversation from there on.
great. I think that's it. We're getting a lot of responses for you, Franzita, saying that the session was really nice and they learned a lot from it. So thank you for your time, and thanks to all for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much, everyone.
Thanks, and we'll be sharing this recording with the attendees. So thanks for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.